Yeah. Today our class is, the topic is gynecological diagnosis, which we are very familiar. If you have attended gynec clinical classes, I think most of it is covered. But we have to, I mean, I think it's like a revision class for most of you. So, what is gynecology? The definition, it is a Greek word which means the woman and the discourse. That is, it pertains to the disease of women, used for and generally used for diseases related to the genital organs. So these are the topics which we will be covering in this lesson today. We'll be knowing about history taking, examination, general examination, and which includes general examination and systematic examination, and gynecological examination. Gynecological examination includes the breast, abdominal, pelvic, vaginal, and rectovaginal examination, and the diagnostic procedures. So, why is gynecological history so unique? Because it is related to the privacy, and it's a very private affair, like you notice on this, and it leads to a lot of fear and anxiety in the woman. So this is the going to the history taking. This is a history format where you can register the patient, take the patient's name in full, the telephone number. So rest all, I think mostly we'll be taking other things, chief complaints, everything in the history. We'll go through the history. This is the outline of what we will be taking in the gynecological history. So a very detailed gynecological history is very important to come to a appropriate and diagnosis. So in the clinical classes, we have been always telling you all how to take the history. You start with the age, taking the LMP, and the sexual history. So these are the outlines. Details we will be going through in the other slides. So how do you take? It's present. The present illness, you take the complaints in the sequence in which they occurred, noting their duration, aggravating factors, relieving factors, and any complaints relating to the menstruation, micturition, and defecation. So as all the pelvic organs are related, so in gynecological part, you will be taking the history of any difficulties in micturition and defecation related to menstruation. This history taking is actually in other, like in other medicine and surgery, it's the same, but a little few specific history you should elicit. In the past history, you talk about the medical illness. If patient is having any heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, and about any surgical history. If she has undergone any abdominal surgeries, any thyroid surgery, breast surgery. And you also have to take allergy to any allergy history and history of any previous blood transfusion. So personal history, as you all know, you take about the diet, whether she takes a mixed diet or a purely vegetarian. History of blood transfusions, bowels and micturition, any addictions, any drug abuse, and any allergies. So in the menstrual history, you take the age at menarche, how are the past menstrual cycles and how are the present menstrual cycles, and date of the last menstrual period. That comes the first day of the period. And obstetric history includes full-term deliveries and the outcome, preterm deliveries and the outcome. Outcome is whether the baby is healthy or it's like that. Abortions, any interventions, whether no interventions like no dilatation or curettage, anything you have to take. And the number of living children, date of the last delivery. So why past and personal history is important? Because past and past history and surgical problems have bearing on the present complaints. If she has diabetes, if she has a complaint of pruritus vulva, a diabetic patient is prone for genital candidiasis and STDs. The personal history, if she has multiple partners, she can have STDs, pelvic inflammatory disease, puerperal sepsis, menstrual disturbances, infertility. Tuberculosis also relates to any tuberculosis in the past history or presently any complaints of menstrual disturbances. Then surgical history, previous abdominal surgeries, pelvic adhesions. Now she can present with abdominal pain, backache. If she is having a retroverted fixed uterus, sometimes due to adhesions, she might also complain of abdominal pain, backache, infertility, menstrual disturbances. Similarly, dyspareunia. I hope you all are familiar what dyspareunia is. It's pain during intercourse. So it also related to pelvic adhesions is one of the cause. So previous any abdominal surgeries can result in pelvic adhesions. So taking a surgical history is very important. Allergies. So you have to inquire whether she is on any chronic medications. If she is alcoholic, smoker. So all these have a relevance in the management of the disease. So family history. So in the family history, so the menstrual patterns in the maternal side and the siblings also. With the history of any premature menopause in the family, menorrhagia, any dysmenorrhea, any cancers in the family pertaining to ovary, uterus and breast, and any medical disorders, diabetes, hypertension, thyroid diseases, genetic hereditary disease, disorders like thalassemia, so, and history of tuberculosis. So, when a female patient comes, so with any, you need to ask whether if she is sexually active. So these are the questions because they are mostly related with the sexually transmitted disease. So in the marital and sexual history, you'll inquire about her marital life, that's how long she is married for, frequency of coitus, because these are all relevant when she presents with conceptional problems, dyspareunia, frigidity, and history of contraceptive use and the type of contraceptive that was being used. So, menstrual history in detail. So, you inquire of the age of menarche. Now, the age of menarche is around 9 to 13 years. The menstrual cycle, normally 28 days, deviation of 2 to 3 days. You inquire of the first day of one period and the first day of the next period. Duration of bleeding. So blood loss is between normal is between 50 to 200 ml. So these are the few definitions which you all must be familiar with if you have attended the classes. We've been repeating it, telling you. So about the pattern of blood loss. So menorrhagia, it's now the new term AUB, which is abnormal uterine bleeding, excessive blood loss, increase in duration of bleeding, and heavier blood flow without any change in cycle length. Polymenorrhea or epimenorrhea, frequent menstrual cycles. That is, the cycle length is less than 21 days. Polymenorrhagia, that is the shorter duration. It is coupled with both heavy flow and the duration of the cycle. What is oligomenorrhea? It is cycle length is prolonged. More than 35 days, infrequent menses, length is prolonged without affecting the duration or amount of flow. The flow is the same, but the duration is prolonged. She might be having a cycle every 2 months also, every 3 months also. So, what is hypomenorrhea? Hypomenorrhea, cycle length remains unaltered, duration and amount of blood loss is reduced. Amenorrhea, complete cessation of menstruation. Physiological pregnancy. So, it is physiological when during pregnancy, lactation, prior to puberty and after menopause. Metrorrhagia is intermenstrual bleeding and may occur in association with ovulation. So other causes of abnormal uterine bleeding, uterine polyps, carcinoma cervix, uterine and lower genital tract, malignancy, vascular irritations, any intrauterine diseases, breakthrough bleeding in oral pill users. Postmenopausal bleeding may be associated with genital malignancy in 30 to 40%. So this is also abnormal uterine bleeding. Postcoital bleeding often suggests cervical lesion, that is erosion, polyp and cancer. So now patient comes with menorrhagia and you have to know whether she is really having menorrhagia or not. So you have to assess the severity. So you inquire about the number of sanitary pads she is changing, whether it is associated with blood clots. Now she is present to you with pallor or any symptoms associated like fatigue, palpitation, dizziness, and breathlessness. So in obstetric history, the details of every conception, number of living children, age of the youngest child, last childbirth, then obstetric complications, if any, if she had any, after what is puerperal and post-abortal sepsis, after delivery and after an abortion, if she had any fever, any sepsis signs, then any postpartum hemorrhage. So after delivery or any obstetrical interventions, like if during delivery if she had any soft tissue injuries like cervical tear, incompetent cervical os she can present with, and repeated abortions. Genital fistula, complete perineal tear. So if she had injuries to the soft tissues, later on she can present to the gynecopy with genital fistulas, any difficult labor also. She can present to the gynecopedy with a tear. Sometimes difficult labor can lead to genital prolapse, that is the pelvic organs can come out through the introitus. Any, and also with stress urinary incontinence. So whenever, what is stress urinary incontinence? Whenever she laughs, whenever the intra-abdominal pressure is there is leakage of urine, and with chronic backache. So after delivery, if she had severe PPH or an obstetric and has landed in an obstetric shock, she may have pituitary necrosis and Sheehan syndrome. So the examination part, as you examine in all other medicine or surgery, this is a general examination. You take the height and weight, the gait, the build, you notice the appearance, you look for pallor, any lymph nodes, any edema of the feet, including varicose veins. Examine the neck for the thyroid, examination of the breast. Look for signs of hirsutism in a gynec patient, you know. So what is hirsutism? It is abnormal hair over the, that is like a male distribution of hair. Then you take all the vital parameters. So systemic examination includes cardiovascular system, respiratory and nervous system. Coming to the gynecological examination, it is the same. You go to the, you examine the abdomen. It includes inspection, palpation, percussion and auscultation. So whenever you're doing a gynecological examination, you need to have if you're a, especially if you're a male doctor, you need to have a female attendee along with the patient. So that is a prerequisite. And what are the prerequisites before a gynecological examination? We should ask the patient to empty the bladder and with utmost privacy, you have to examine the patient. So when you examine the abdomen on inspection, You look the shape of the abdomen, the umbilicus, and the movement with breathing. Any scars on the abdomen, any lumps. So palpation, and you stand on the right side of the patient when you examine. Then on palpation, you look for tenderness, any rigidity, any guarding. The same like in surgical, where you examine. Then ascites, you can do percussion also. If it's a solid malignancy, you will get a dull note. And you can elicit fluid thrill also. So on auscultation, if there is any intestinal adhesions over the lump, so and in paralytic case, the peristaltic sounds are reduced. So these are the common positions you adopt during a gynecological examination. You need a good light, as I told you. So this is the usual dorsal position is the usual dorsal recumbent position is the usual position we examine. Then Sims lateral position, in some specific as examinations where you have to examine the anterior vaginal wall, you need to you adapt the Sims lateral position, and the other one is lithotomy position, where you can sometimes in OPDs in lithotomy positions we can do some minor procedures. So before speculum examination, you have to go through the you have to inspect. On inspection, look at the vulva, if any palpable masses or any swellings. I mean, you have to look at the external genitalia. Then in specular examination, you use the Cusco's speculum. This is how it looks like. So this is how you examine. This speculum, Cusco's speculum, is a bivalve self-retaining speculum. It's an ideal for office examination. So two types of speculums are there. One is Sims speculum and Cusco's speculum. If you have come to OPDs, you must have seen these both these instruments. Each instrument is having various advantages. Like Sims speculum, you can easily assess the vaginal wall for cystocele and rectocele. An assistant is required for Sims speculum, whereas because Cusco's is a self-retaining speculum, you don't need any assistant, and it allows examination of all the fornices. You can do a pap smear, you can collect vaginal discharges. So in case of a vaginal prolapse, in genital prolapse, Sims speculum is needed. So this is how, this is Sims speculum. So pelvic examination, includes, like I told you, external genitalia. You have to look at the appearance, any discharges, scars. We also have to look at the perineum. Then comes the bimanual examination. So 2 fingers of the right hand are introduced into the vagina and the left hand is placed on the well above the pubic symphysis. So and it should be very gentle. Before that, you can lubricate the gloved hand and introduce. If sometimes the introitus is very narrow, you can use a single finger. To recognize, you can, by doing a bimanual examination, you can recognize the uterus and examine if there is, you can push the cervix upwards and see if this is transmitted to the swelling. Alternatively, you can push down the uterus, which causes the cervix to move down. Whereas if there is any adnexal masses, it doesn't move with cervical or uterine movement. So what do you see? It is cervix position, whether it's pointing out forwards or backwards. Uterus size, position, consistency, mobility, and to palpate the fornices. So while doing a bimanual examination, you can identify any ovarian cysts or neoplasms, fimbrial cysts, tubo-ovarian masses, hydrosalpinx. So these are the masses. So when you're having an adnexial mass, like pyosalpinx, the uterus is displaced to the opposite. The fingers in the vagina are moved to one side of the cervix and they feel the lower pole of the swelling. So you also need to do a rectal examination. In case of virgins, a vaginal examination is avoided. Palpable pathology in the POD, it is often allows ovaries to be more easily identified. Parametritis and endometriosis can be also identified. You can palpate the uterosacral ligaments in endometriosis and often find it as thick and nodular and tender. And rectal examination is a must in CA cervix to determine the extent of its posterior spread, a rectal examination. And in this way, you can stage the carcinoma. Coming to the investigations, why do we need to do investigations? To confirm the diagnosis, to assess the extent of the disease, to establish a baseline for future comparison and response to therapy, patient fitness to undergo surgery. So this is why you do all the basic blood investigation, total blood count, the other viral screening tests as for any other case, urine examination. But today in gynec, some special investigations we will be talking about, very unique, very different for in a gynecological case. So special investigations are such as tumor markers like CA125, CEA, alpha fetoproteins, beta HCG. So in ovarian tumors and bacteriological examination. So on the genital tract exam, when you collect the vaginal discharge, so you can diagnose trichomoniasis, candida, so this is how you collect discharge from the urethra, Bartholin's endocervical secretions for culture. It's platinum loop, it's called. Then in case of bacterial vaginosis, you can do a microscopic examination. Flow cells gives a diagnosis of the PCR test. So this hanging drop preparation in case of yeast infections, microscopic examination, you had equal amount of 10% KOH to the discharge and place a drop of the mixture on a slide, cover it and warm the slide and examine under low power microscope. What the KOH does is it dissolves all the cellular debris, leaving more resistant yeast-like organism. Another specific test is the Schiller test. The test detects the presence of glycogen in the superficial cells of vaginal epithelium. So in Schiller test, you use Lugol's iodine to stain the vaginal wall. If glycogen is present and it's healthy, it takes a brown color. It's called mahogany brown color. Whereas unstained areas, negative tests are abnormal and require biopsy for histological examination. Then this is a very common OPD procedure done in gynecological OPDs. It's called Pap-Nicola test or a PAP test. It is a cervical screening test, screening for cervical cancer. It was first described by Pap-Nicola and Trott in 1943. Surface biopsy or exfoliative cytology. Procedure: Pap smear should be obtained prior to vaginal examination. No lubricant. So this is the prerequisites. There should be no lubricant. The patient should not have intercourse or touch for 24 hours prior to the Pap test. So how it is done? The cervix is exposed and it is the squamocolumnar junction is scraped with Ayer's spatula by rotating the spatula all round. The scrapings are spread around to the glass slide and immediately fixed by dipping the slide in a jar containing equal parts of 95% ethyl alcohol and ether. After fixing it for 30 minutes, the slide is air dried and stained with PAP or short stain. But nowadays we use a fixative spray or cyto spray is nowadays available and can be used conveniently in an office setup. So this is the Ayer's spatula and the cyto brush. So that cotton bud, if any abnormal discharges are there, you can remove. And then this is the Ayer's spatula, plastic one and a wooden one, and these are the cyto brushes. So this is the cyto brush. You have to just twist it around. So look at the pictures, use of cyto brush and use of Pap smear spatula. This. So the brush you can just twist it and then look at the Ayer's spatula, which has long end and then short end. This is also rotated 360 degrees and the superficial cells are taken and fixed on a slide. The slide is prepared as thin as possible. And then you immediately fix with the cyto spray and air dry it. So cervical cell pathology in squamous tissue and the grades. This is the normal cells, the basal, parabasal, preconified, conified, and hyperconified cells look like. So an inflammatory smear looks like this. It's superficial inflammation and intermediate and basal. And precancerous cells have, look at the pattern. It has multilobular, multinucleated cell gigantism. Okay. And the cancer, this very undifferentiated cells. So pap smear classifications, these are graded. You can go through in your textbook. Then pap smear with liquid-based cytology start with sexual activity at 30 years, anytime after 21 years. In case it is negative, repeat yearly for 3 years. If it is positive, go for colposcopy and biopsy. If 3 years it is negative, you can do pap test 5 yearly up to 60 years. Then you can also do cytohormonal evaluation. So the cells also reflect the hormonal influence in the vagina and the estrogen and progesterone influence on the vaginal cells. So these are mostly important during infertility treatments and the influence of the hormones on the exfoliated cells. Then you can specifically look at, you recognize coliocytes with prenuclear halo in HPV infections. Then, so uterine aspiration cytology is also an OPD procedure. Perimenopausal and on hormones are now screened for endometrial cancer. It is a uterine aspiration syringe or brush is used to be require adequate samples. It can be utilized as an office procedure. 90% accuracy with no false is claimed with this procedure. Then colposcope. So any abnormal pap smear, you can proceed to colposcope and a directed biopsy. So colposcope, it's a binocular microscope. You can have a look at this in our OPDs. It has 10 to 20 times magnification. It is useful in locating abnormal areas and accurately obtaining directed biopsy from the suspicious areas on the cervix in women with any abnormal smears. Then endometrial biopsy. This is also nowadays it's an outpatient procedure required in infertility. It is performed in premenstrual phase. A fine curette is introduced into the uterine cavity to obtain a small strip for histopathological examination. For hormonal assays also, part of investigations in a gynec patient. For all the hormones, progesterone, all these hormones can be assayed. These are used in the diagnosis of menopause, PCOD, prolactinomas, and monitoring treatment regimes in induction of ovulation. Ultrasound. So finally, without ultrasound, nowadays our OPDs are gynecological examination is not completed actually. Ultrasound is a non-invasive, painless diagnostic procedure. And the advantage is it is devoid of any radiation hazards. So ultrasound is nowadays used for therapeutic procedures also, like in IVF and aspiration of cysts or pelvic abscess. So other imaging modalities are radiological investigations, such as HSG, hysterosalpingo in case of to study the patency of fallopian tubes and infertile with CT-MRI are advanced investigations determine the extent of tumor and their spread. Sonosalpingography is employed in women with infertility and when uterine polyps are suspected. Then, now, the latest is gynecological endoscopy. Diagnostic and therapeutic purposes used, laparoscopy and hysteroscopy. So, you look into there's a camera and you look into the monitor, you can notice the pelvic organs, the POD, the ovaries. Okay. So indications for laparoscopy. So for diagnostic purpose and therapeutic purpose, these are so mostly in cases of for diagnosis for infertility, ovarian pelvic endometriosis, chronic pelvic pain, ovarian malignancies, uterine malformations, tubal infertility. In therapeutic, you can do pelvic adhesiolisis combined, both diagnostic and therapeutic also. In PCOD for drilling, lymphadenectomy, myomectomy, infertility. So one more procedure is culdocentesis. Culdocentesis is a procedure done for aspiration from the pouch of Douglas. It's required for diagnosis of pelvic abscess, ectopic pregnancy, any hematocele, to detect malignancy in ascites with ovarian cyst. The only therapeutic purpose is to drain the pus in pelvic abscess. So you can look at this. The patient is put in dorsal position or lithotomy position. The posterior with the tenaculum, the posterior lip is caught and with the help of a syringe, a spinal gauze needle is used and you introduce into the posterior fornix and you see if any collection is there. Then patient comes with amenorrhea. So this basic pregnancy test needs to be done to all cases of abnormal uterine bleeding and in the reproductive age group. So how is this pregnancy test done? First, morning sample of urine is used in rapid immunological test to confirm pregnancy. The pregnancy test becomes positive by beginning of the 6th week from the LMP. Thank you. Any doubts?
Hmm.